This is TWiT.
So the most important thing, though, is that Musk's really kind of first official act as a board member was to put that edit poll button up. and Agrawal said, okay, we got an edit button. So the edit button will roll out, I think, over the next few days. But there's been some complaints about that, too. In fact, my wife asked me, well, I know you're going to play devil's advocate on Twig today. So what's your real opinion on the edit
here
button?
It comes.
And?
But I'm going to wait and hear, guy, what you all say.
Well, Twitter is...
Go ahead, Ms. Stacey.
Sorry, Twitter's always pointed out that the edit button makes it hard for people. You can go back in and change what you said, which is anathema to kind of what the platform was designed to do.
Yeah, Lisa said, Facebook's got an edit button. My blog has an edit button. Why shouldn't Twitter have an edit button? What do you think, Ed?
I'm sort of half and half on this. I like the premise of it not being editable because of context and things of that nature. But at the same time, I use Twitter Blue, and I enjoy that aspect of, oh, crap, I have a typo in there. Let me fix that real quick and then hit send.
Right. Well,
You know,
and that's
not really an
Lisa
edit
has
button.
that, too, and I do, too. Yeah, it's just a wait. Look at it again. You got
Right.
30 seconds.
Right.
Yeah.
But
That's good. I think, to me, that's a good solution.
I dig that.
They Agrawal
look
said
at it.
that the Twitter Blue folks will get the first shot at the edit button. So so keep an eye peeled.
Am I
for
the
that.
only person still using Twitter Blue? I still like it.
No, I still use
like
it.
it.
We're all
I-
Twitter Blue members. $3
We're
bucks a
all
month.
Twitter Blue subscribers.
We're all blue. What about you,
Can I
Jeff?
join in?
Edit button, pro or con?
So a few thoughts. One is I think that an edit button with no record of it is a mistake because it's another tool for disinformation.
Yeah.
But an edit button that shows you clearly what has been changed, I think has real benefit. It can say, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
It can say, I'm stupid and I made a typo, but here I am. I recognize that. I think that would actually improve the ethic.
How would you show that?
Same way you would.
Oh,
Same way you do
same
it in
thing
Slack.
on Word. You know, you can do a cross out or you can do a different color for adding in.
So
You can do-
maybe I would argue that that's kind of what Twitter has right now. You just do another tweet saying, sorry, typo, and you do another tweet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but the
but
problem
it
is
has
it's
to
already
be.
gone out.
It has to be in your real tweet. You have
yeah,
to
that's
change your real
in
tweet.
context.
So let me keep going.
Now,
for
I
this.
wonder if you could do an alt text.
Yeah, you could have
For that.
crossed out.
Would that work, Jeff?
Yeah, I think it would. I think there's a few options here. So another thing that a product guy at Twitter came on today and said, give me suggestions. So I wrote like 4 tweets suggesting things. I think another way to look at this is as an update, not an edit. That I could attach something to a tweet and say, oops, I made a mistake, or here's a fix, or whatever. The problem I think that they're facing here is the architecture of it, that RSS, the tweets go out and they're out of the control of Twitter. They're on somebody else's reader. Now, Twitter got rid of a lot of that, but it still has that, I think, that essential RSS architecture, not calling RSS, not exactly, where it's out there. And especially if you go to Blue Sky,
API.
things are in a federated world where they're stored in 100 places. You know, are you going to have to update it in 100 places? That becomes a technical challenge, I think, which is really interesting to consider. So there's the transparency and truthfulness challenge of not being used for misinformation and trying to fool us into thinking somebody said this but they didn't say. I think that's critical. But the second then is the technical challenge of how would you implement this? And I don't think it's as easy as people think.
I like the edit tag showing up on there, just as if I were looking at Slack and you know someone typed something to me that they had a typo and they go in and fix their typo and then it shows edit right there. And I get it.
The thing Twitter would tell you is that it's not designed to do that. It's exactly as you said, Jeff. Once a tweet goes out, Twitter, in effect, loses control of it. So any edit is going to be imperfect because we can't fix what's already happened.
Yeah.
So even an update would have to go back, get that tweet, and amend it. And that's just not the architecture at all.
Yeah.
I think there's also the sociological issue, which is what is Twitter? It's not Facebook. It's not a blog. It's real time. And so when you say something, you say it. And it's out there and it's done. And it's not editable because it's in effect live.
Okay,
It
so you
shouldn't
said
just-
it's not a blog, yet there are many people that try to use it as
maybe
a
they're misusing it.
microblog with
Yeah,
that
yeah.
whole threading feature.
Yeah. I think the real issue comes down to how you think of Twitter. And I think because, for instance, politicians use it, which makes it a matter of record. You can't have, that's really a big problem with this editing the past.
The official account.
It's an official account, whether you like it or not.
Companies too, actually, yeah.
It's become an official account. So I am dead set against it. I think it's a huge mistake. It's not what Twitter is all about. And if you want that, put it on Facebook, put it on LinkedIn, put it somewhere where you can edit. But Twitter is it's about being live in real time. Now, Kevin Marks, and we're going to have him on next week, and he'll also be on TNW tomorrow. So I'll let him speak for himself. But on his kevinmarks.com blog, he raises another very interesting issue. Over time, Twitter has changed the way you embed a tweet on your blog. In the past, people would copy and paste, or they would take a picture, a screenshot of it, and put it on their blog. Twitter doesn't want you to do that. In fact, probably says somewhere deep in their terms of service you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
What they want you to do is embed, in effect, a JavaScript linked back to Twitter, so that and in a way, it's a good thing to do because it authenticates it. It says, no, here's the tweet. You can see it's the same. I haven't modified it. But Kevin says, with all the fuss about Twitter's promised edit button and how they might design it, we're missing a disturbing development. Twitter is using its embedded JavaScript to edit other people's sites. So
this is different from an edit button. This is a whole separate problem.
Well, but an edit button would, in fact, require
Depends
this.
on how it's implemented, but it could, yes.
Because otherwise...
Yeah, if it implemented so it didn't tell you that it's been edited, that would be a problem on your site if you did it to prove something.
And if people are using copy and paste or screenshots, edit all you want. It's not going to change on those websites. So, and Twitter's strongly encouraging you not to do that, to use the JavaScript, which would be kind of a requisite of having an edit button. You can't edit it unless you can yank bank all of the versions of that tweet that exist out in the universe, fix them, and put them back out there. And that's the only way you can do this is with an embed, not with a
Does a
screenshot.
tweet have a URI?
It does.
So in that case, I could imagine implementation where, to go to Ant's point about the hey, something was changed here button. There's an update to this in a sense. If you could attach that, now you'd have to require clients to show that. But for a given URI, there is an added piece of data that says, a bit that says on off, this has been updated or not.
Yeah. So there's a long article on Kevin's blog, which I recommend. And this is I'm going to show you the screenshot from his blog, an example of why this is a bad thing. These are tweets from Donald Trump. If you show my screen, these are tweets, so this is an article from Vox about the war on James Comey, quoting tweets from Donald Trump, except that that's a blank box because those tweets are gone.
It used to come with plain text above the embed.
This is what the embed looks like now from Kevin's. You get a block quote. You do get this text, but then you also get the href. And then the JavaScript renders it. There's the JavaScript there that renders it. So the href is that link, as you said, to the canonical actual tweet. That's important too, by the way. If you don't have that link, then there's no way to verify on the Twitter site that what you're saying is true.
Yep, true.
If you use the embed, though, you get these embeds like this, which are pretty, and most sites use them now.
Yep.
But it has the negative, as you can see, of disappearing once that tweet has disappeared. And by the way, it doesn't just have to be Twitter, banning somebody. It could be just Donald Trump taking those down, which he did, in fact. Yeah. So now, by the way, this is the cited text. This is how that article could look, which is the original tweet content. So I think if you're going to consider Twitter an important part of the public record, that's another reason not to allow editing. Because
is this your real opinion or your?
This is what I told Lisa. I said,
okay, all right.
I was maybe
Lisa,
a little salty.
Can we confirm that, please?
I was a little saltier.
I don't want Leo editing his opinions.
I said, edit tweets is a terrible idea. I understand why users want it because there's a typo or I said something.
Typos. I feel like an idiot.
Yeah, you look like an idiot.
That's why I would want this because of the typos. But I get it. I'm thinking about people that are harassed and they need that record that shows, hey, I was harassed by this person on Twitter. And if they go to delete it, that's...
Well, interesting, because who would like that best? The harasser, right? Well, would you say Elon Musk might be somebody who would benefit from editable tweets? All right. And what if the SEC is investigating those tweets and there's no record of those tweets, right? Yeah. The effect has already been, felt. Yeah. He says, I'm all in on Dogecoin. Dogecoin goes up. He sells his Dogecoin. Yeah. And then
they go to
edits the tweet or deletes the tweet.
Yeah, it's gone.
It should not. I think Twitter should be a permanent record. It's a live, just like our live stream is a permanent record. It's live. Now we edit. Actually, we had I'll give you a little inside baseball because we had an issue last week where one of our hosts said, "Can you cut that part of the show out? Because I said something I wish I hadn't said." And without asking me, our editors, because they respect him, took it out. And I hit the ceiling. And I sent them a number of links. Jeff, back me up on this. And you too, Stacey. You're both, trained
stupid
journalists.
Things we've said?
No, you're trained journalists.
Journalists.
I said, once it's part of the public record, you can't just amend it.
Right.
At the very least, you have to put...
You can amend it. You just can't erase it.
Right. Yeah. So at the bottom, you have to say correction, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Something like that.
Update.
I will say, so with blogging, it's changed a little bit. And even at like venerable publications such as Fortune, if you do like what is an accepted typo, so not a misspelling of someone's name, but if you put like, I don't know, you just like
no
spell
instead of
I
on.
before E wrong. Yeah. Right. Or right. Those kind of things you can correct without, like we would correct typos without making a fuss over it. But we never, like, if that typo was in someone's name,
typo's a little different.
Context.
So what I did is I sent the staff this from the University of Southern California Annenberg School, their online journalism review, an article, Rewriting History, Should Editors Delete or Alter Online Content? And I think it's a kind of a very good example of what happens and why it shouldn't happen and how it should be handled appropriately. And it's a very good long piece.
So do you think the right to be forgotten is wrong?
Well, so that's an interesting question. Yeah, I mean, it's wrong. I'll tell you why I think it's wrong, which has nothing to do with this, is it doesn't go to the source. It doesn't go to the original article that you're trying to get rid of. It goes to Google. And why is it Google's responsibility? They're just the search engine. It should be if you don't like what somebody said about you in the past, or you want to bury it, you got to go to the source. You don't go to the search engine. So that's what's wrong with that.
Oh, okay. I'm curious to hear what Stacey particularly says about this, but all of you. There was a discussion on Twitter recently with journalism ethics people, believe it or not, they exist, and about the idea of basically doing right to be forgotten with newspapers. That someone comes and says, "Listen, I was arrested 30 years ago for something." It comes up in search. I want to go to the source. I want to go to the newspaper, and I want this taken down. What's your and I've lived a perfect life since then. I made a stupid mistake 30 years ago.
No.
What do you say?
No.
Okay, so I actually think this is actually one of the things that I think is really important, and I would love to see legislation actually on this, which is under a certain age, maybe 18, maybe 21, I think you should be able to do it. Yeah. And I say that because I feel like kids.
That's enshrined in
hold up. I know, but it's not on social media. It's not the case. So if I was in the
law, of course.
Right. So I think that's okay. But 30 years ago, if you ran over someone's cat and someone wrote a story about it and you now want to work for the SPCA and your name comes up as a cat killer, I'm sorry, buddy.
That was very elaborate there, Stacey. That was quite a yarn you just told.
I didn't want to
specific.
Yeah, it is. I
was just trying to think of a crime that wasn't. I mean, it was bad, but it's
why
not
you have
like,
a dog, not a cat, Stacey. You were bitten the rest of your life. You can confess to it.
No, there's no history of cat murdering. I don't want to.
No, I agree.
Children
sorry.
This is minors is something completely separate. You're making a good point. But minors is something completely separate. Yes, of course. But what if you... and by the way, the law does have also provisions for expunging your record even as an adult.
But not the newspaper. That's the law.
But not a newspaper.
The law can't tell a newspaper to do it.
But it's interesting that we do...
And there is a category right now about mugshots. So if you get arrested and have a mugshot, those can be published online and follow you forever, even if you're not convicted of crime. So then the burden becomes on you to explain what happened. And there are people who are like, is that really fair?
I honestly think the public record is the public record. But I
agree.
I think there are also extenuating circumstances, and there's history. Maybe there should be a statute of limitations on social media posts. Honestly, every social media network lets you delete stuff.
And some people go through and delete all of their tweets.
Just
like,
as
the past.
as a matter of hygiene, I do that. I deleted everything, except for the last 2 years or something. Just as a matter of hygiene. Not because the problem is that looks like a guilty action.
So in journalism, your lawyers will tell you, like for notes, for example, whatever note-taking strategy you have, actually, they're like, if you have to have a strategy and stick with it so you don't appear guilty.
That's right.
So my strategy is to keep my notes for 2 years and then dump all of them.
Right.
Okay.
But you have to be consistent.
That way.
Yeah.
Yes.
NBC
and so
told us
if
that
you're
as well.
consistent
Yeah.
with your tweet deletions, then you're fine.